at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We gotta unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the Resistance, Thursday, June 6th. I hope you're having a good day. I'm Dean Obeidallah, of course, aspiring to be your MBFF. That's what I dream of every day. And Twitter, at Dean Obeidallah, Facebook.com/Dean of Radio, where you can always watch the monologue, or we have guests in studio. Go there, or afterwards, if you want to see what the person looks like Cenk Uygur was here yesterday. Some people like Cenk a great deal. Some don't, as I'm finding out. I understand it. But you can watch the video online. And later in the show, we have some guests in studio. You can always go back and watch it. Or drop me an email, dean@deanofradio.com. So, a lot to talk about. And, of course, some involves Trump. But first, let's go to Colbert for a couple of quick jokes here that helps us make sense of it all. And here's Colbert talking about Trump finally getting the crowds cheering him. Remember, Trump was lying and saying the crowds were cheering when they were doing the baby Trump float and mocking him and signs just demonizing him. But he was, nope, they all love him. But here's clip number one.
Throughout the trip, Trump has insisted that instead of protests, the people of London have been cheering. Today he was right because he left. Trump is currently...
Absolutely right. And then this next joke by Colbert is excellent, and that it also helps us get into the topic I want to talk about. And here he is talking about Trump's interview with Piers Morgan that took place yesterday in the UK, and essentially the grading on a curve. And it's all relevant to what we're going to get to in a second. So let's hear that clip number 2, please.
Morgan began by complimenting Trump's behavior around the royal family.
You were unusually, if you don't mind me saying, well-behaved last night. You seemed like you were on best behavior, as if the Queen was somebody that you absolutely wanted to show maximum respect.
Well, I have great respect for her. And yes, I think I'm on good behavior most of the time, but certainly last night.
Is this how far we've sunk? We're complimenting the president on being well-behaved like he's a dog? Who's a good president? Who's a good president? Who's a good? Yes, you are. Who's a good president? Who didn't hump the Queen's leg? You didn't.
Yes, you are. You're a good president. And it's about grading Trump on a curve. And it happened again today. And I have a theory why, and I'll share it, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But it had to do with Donald Trump's speech today at the 75th anniversary of D-Day, honoring some of the most remarkable people and the memory of those who sacrificed for essentially a fight for humanity. I mean, when you look back at the Allied forces versus the Axis powers, it was really a fight for humanity. And Donald Trump made a speech, and the media, so many just applauded it crazily because, like Piers Morgan, like Colbert talked about in that joke, they have so lowered the bar for Trump that when he literally reads a speech that's written by someone else and doesn't veer off and embarrass America or say something asinine and idiotic, they applaud him. And it's ridiculous. And first of all, we'll play a clip. Here's Joe Scarborough this morning after Trump gave his speech at the D-Day ceremony, applauding. Here's clip number 3.
The president chose to have the discipline to stick to script and deliver what, again, I believe was the strongest speech of his presidency. And there was one especially beautiful moment.
Yes, we're not going to hear it. And then Tom Brokaw praised it, saying that it was praised the content and style, declaring that Mr. Trump got it right. And then Jim Acosta, who's a critic of Donald Trump, who they go back and forth, and clearly they don't even like each other personally. But Jim Acosta had to go on and on gushing about Donald Trump. Here's clip number 4.
We were all wondering whether he would veer from his remarks, go off of his script there, but he stayed on script, stayed on message, and I think rose to the moment. And as he was talking about those men gathered behind him, he described them as being among the greatest Americans who have ever lived. I mean, that could not be more of a fact check true if we could have found one. And it really was one of those moments that I think Donald Trump needed to rise to in order to, I think, walk away from this cemetery, walk away from this hallowed ground, and have, people back at home saying, you know what, no matter what I think about the current president of the United States, he said the right thing at Normandy. He did the right thing at Normandy. He really hit all of the right, I think, moments in that speech.
He read a speech that someone else wrote, and he didn't make a mistake and didn't veer off and applaud himself or pat himself on the back. All that was missing today was the day Trump became president or presidential. WTF, folks. I mean, seriously. Do you ever remember the media going, President Obama delivered a speech today. He read it off the teleprompter. It was remarkable. He didn't screw up even once. No, because that's the baseline. That's what you're supposed to do. You don't applaud just doing the competent job. That's not what a president of the United States does on foreign soil. And it was not a great delivered speech. You don't have to watch it. But trust me. It was well written, sure. Someone else wrote it for him, and he just read it. And he didn't veer off. And this is where we are. And it's just like Colbert's joke. Oh, who's the good little Trump there? Oh, you didn't hump anyone's leg during your speech. You didn't pee on yourself or anyone else and tell them it was raining. The old joke from Judge Judy. Now, is that because you can have a moment and say, hey, Trump's horrific, but I'm going to applaud him for this speech? Or is it because the more sinister reason that concerns me? And I've said this many times. I will continue to say this to the chagrin of others who are my friends who work in cable news, even if it means I don't get booked as much. Deep down, there are many people in cable news who want Donald Trump to win a second term. And they even hate Donald Trump. They may even despise Donald Trump. But here's the reality. It's good for business, and it's good for them personally. Think about this. Say you had a job where, because of Trump, even though you hate him, you've gotten raises and bonuses, and more people are hired, and things are going great. And you might hate Trump, but you're like, you know what? If he doesn't win re-election, there's going to be layoffs here, and there will be in cable news. There's no doubt. And there won't be bonuses, and there might not be raises, and people might not be able to pay their bills or pay for their family's food. And I'm being very sincere. I'm not mocking them. Those are the stakes for many people in cable news, producers and on-air people. And I think you're going to see more of this as they begin to do their best to humanize and to normalize Donald Trump. And it can even be subconscious, like it could be unconscious bias at play. In others, it might be a slightly conscious bias. You'll see it from executives in the story selection. I think you have to expect more and more of that. And because what they left out in that coverage and those words was, what did Trump tweet just hours before he gave that speech? He began the day today, the day of the 75th anniversary commemorating D-Day, by tweeting about himself and attacking the media. They didn't bring that up. He tweeted this morning before that speech, quote, and he talks about himself in the third person. The president has received glowing reviews from the British media. Here at home, not so much. MSNBC ramps up hateful coverage and promotes conspiracy theories during Trump's trip to Europe. Then he quotes Sean Hannity, which is probably a lie because he just makes things up now. Then Trump adds, the good news is that Rachel Maddow is dying in the ratings along with CNN. There is Trump beginning the day of the 75th anniversary of D-Day by attacking MSNBC and CNN. The media should have began with that was a nice speech. He delivered well, but of course he began the day talking about himself because every day is D-Day for Donald Trump. Donald Day. Every day is about Donald. D-Day anniversary means nothing to him. D-Day is Donald Day, and what is good for Donald? How is the victimhood going to play today? That's all he cares about. And then he sits down with Laura Ingraham, which he had done before that speech, by the way, but they didn't know exactly what she said. And there is Donald Trump sitting with Laura Ingraham. And behind Donald Trump, and I'm not exaggerating, I tweet out a still, you can see it, are the tombstones of hundreds and hundreds of soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice in fighting the Nazis. They are on Normandy Beach. And behind them, sitting there he is smearing a veteran, Robert Mueller, a U.S. veteran who has more courage in an hour than Trump has in his life, who's given more to this country than Trump ever will, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi. They didn't call this out. Let's hear clip number 5.
And if he testifies still before you said he didn't care, Mueller testifies.
Let me tell you, he made such a fool out of himself the last time because what people don't report is the letter he had to do to straighten out his testimony because his testimony was wrong. But Nancy Pelosi, I call her Nervous Nancy. Nancy Pelosi doesn't talk about it. Nancy Pelosi's a disaster, okay? She's a disaster. And let her do what she wants. You know what? I think they're in big trouble.
The memory of so many who've sacrificed their lives and their families. No, it's not. Nothing is. It's always D-Day. It's always Donald Day. Any other human being would have said, I'm not here to talk about politics on this occasion. I'm here to talk about the people who sacrificed their lives. Any normal human being, but not Donald Trump. And here is Andrea Miller talking about bluntly how divided Europe is. She was doing this in Normandy right there, talking to Speaker Pelosi. And Speaker Pelosi tries her best in a way to do something which viscerally I don't like, but I get it. She's on foreign soil, so she doesn't want to criticize Donald Trump. And I get that. So here's clip number 6.
I was here when Ronald Reagan was here in 1984. I was here for that. And for all the disagreements over how to handle missile deployments in Europe, there were a lot of tensions then. But we didn't have the divisions with Europe that we have now. America is less respected in Europe than at any time in post-war history.
Well, let's dwell on what the positive possibilities are. I think everyone should reread Ronald Reagan's speech of that day. It's so beautiful, and it talks about the importance of alliances and working together.
So there's Speaker Pelosi, and why she's saying something that I might not really love. I wish she would slam Trump, but I get it. She's being what a president should do. A president should say, when asked the question by Laura Ingraham about U.S. politics, I'm not here to talk about that. But not Donald Trump. He is. And let me be blunt. Donald Trump has more in common with the people America and our allies were fighting on D-Day on that beach than with America. And let me explain what I mean by that. Donald Trump is much more, I'm not saying he's a Nazi, I'm not saying he's Hitler. I'm saying he's more in line with those dictators, the people who do not believe in a free press, who believe in using the apparatus of government to punish your enemies, to imprison them if you can, to crush free speech and dissent, to become a dictator regardless of the rule of law, to demonize minorities for political gain. That's what the other side did. That's who we were fighting on D-Day. Donald Trump has more in common with them than he does with us. And that's the truth. That's not hyperbolic. That is the truth. If you disagree, you can tell me. And again, I'm not saying Trump's a Nazi. That's just too simple, too simplistic and not accurate. But Trump does have more in common with those on the other side who are fighting for dictatorship and demonizing and even killing minorities and not the rule of law and not freedom of press and imprisoning and killing those who are your enemies, your political enemies. And lock her up is the beginning of that kind of stuff. Where it goes with Trump, we'll never know, and let's hope we don't have to. You know, Dwight Eisenhower went back to D-Day. He went back, not to D-Day, about years after D-Day, he went back to Normandy. And he stood there looking at the tombstones. And he was interviewed by Walter Cronkite. It was 20 years after D-Day. And Dwight Eisenhower was asked a question by Walter Cronkite about looking at these graves. What do you think? And Dwight Eisenhower said, these people have given us a chance so that we can do better than before. Dwight Eisenhower looked at the gravestones and said, these people have given us a chance so that we can do better than before. And those words ring true to me today as we fight Trump and Trumpism. That we are given this chance because people sacrificed on D-Day to fight against fascism and dictatorship and fight for what are Western liberal values. And I don't mean liberal in terms of conservative liberal. I mean liberal values and that free press, that there's pluralism and multiculturalism. You're not demonized for your religion, your faith, your ethnicity. So I think the words of Dwight Eisenhower, these people have given us a chance so we can do better than before, ring true today as we fight Trump and Trumpism. And at some point, we're going to have this discussion more and more, I think, in 2020. And I hope the Democratic candidates do that. And I think they'll be afraid to because they're going to seem like they're attacking the rank and file of the Trump world. And it's not about that. It's those who embrace Trumpism. Trumpism is not conservatism. It's not Republican orthodoxy. It's different. It is Trumpism. It is banning Muslims. So it's demonizing a faith group, a minority faith group. It's calling Latinos, Mexicans rapists. And that, of course, the same idea, these people who we were fighting on the beach on D-Day. The idea of demonizing for political gain minority groups. It's about believing in not attacking our freedom of press and trying to destroy it. I mean, literally, Donald Trump today, on the anniversary of D-Day, talks about the good news is Rachel Maddow is dying in the ratings along with CNN. What Western leader does that? Who takes joy in hoping that the critics of him in the media are off the air? I mean, just on the UK 3 days ago, he lands there and he calls for a boycott of AT&T, the parent company of CNN, to change their coverage. That's not what Western values. That's not American values. That's not what the people who died on D-Day fought for. They fought for the opposite of this. Because that's what I mean it when I say Donald Trump has more in common with those. He has more in common with the people we're fighting than those people who sacrifice are fighting, than with the American values that we have today or had then. And Trump has done everything he can, as you heard from MSNBC there, in dividing Europe. He's trying to undermine NATO. I mean, NATO is a response to what we saw in World War II and the Cold War, of course. He's trying to undermine it. He tries to break up the EU and hit people in his administration and himself have tried to embolden the far-right people in Europe, from Nigel Farage in the UK to Viktor Orban in Hungary. It's a dangerous time we have out here. And so I get back to the media here. And it's to see the media say, what a great speech and all that, without giving any context, without saying this is the guy today giving a great speech about fighting Nazis who actually called those marching with neo-Nazis very fine people in Charlottesville, and equating those very people with those who are fighting that. And that's where we stand. And the media not giving it context to me concerns me. I'm truly concerned that the media will subtly do their best to elect Donald Trump in 2020. I'm hoping I'm wrong. And I think the only thing we can do is we have to hold them accountable. We watched with our jaw agape in 2016 as the media bent over backwards to give Trump coverage. And I didn't think we ever thought he was going to win. It didn't even matter. Now we realize how much it matters. So we have to do that. We have to call the media, even MSNBC, even CNN, accountable. Forget Fox News. We can't hold them anything. They can't do it. So what do you think of what the media did? Is it, am I wrong? Perhaps you could say, you know what? People in the media can say one speech is good and still be very critical of him. Or it's the beginning of what we're going to see more in the future. And what do you think of Trump sitting there on sacred soil, literally with a cemetery behind him, smearing Robert Mueller, a U.S. military vet, and Speaker Pelosi? And listen how Speaker Pelosi responded, the complete opposite. We've never seen this. Ronald Reagan would have never, ever done this. George W. Bush would have never done that on foreign soil. George H. Walker Bush would have never done that on foreign soil. That's why it's Trumpism. It's not Republicanism. It's not conservatism. It is Trumpism. And we have to defeat that as well as Trump. So I'd love to hear from you. You're my guest right to the top of the hour. 866-997-4748. Another thing, after yesterday we talked about Joe Biden, and I got emails and Facebook posts by some upset with me for being critical of Joe Biden and the Hyde Amendment. Look, we're in the primary season. We have to vet the candidates. We have to call them out. I didn't say Joe Biden's dead to me. We can't support him. I never said that. If Liz Warren said something I don't like, I'm going to come up here and say the same thing. If Julian Castro says something, if Cory Booker, we have to vet the candidates so we have the best nominee to win in the general. Once we get to the general, it's complete support. Unless they say something crazy, it's complete support. So for those who were upset about calling out Joe Biden for supporting the Hyde Amendment, essentially saying women who don't have the wherewithal to get an abortion and they can't get federal funding, and that's okay not to get federal funding to get an abortion, I disagree with that. I'm not saying it's a deal breaker at all. I disagree with it. So I sense a growing tension among my fellow progressives now. And I was thinking about it a lot today. And I think I didn't see this in 2018. I think a lot was because it was a House race and whoever the nominee was, everyone was supporting. It was just each district and people went out and supported them. You didn't have a dog in the fight, so to speak. Well, 2020, I think more and more people are getting more emotionally invested in each of the candidates. I think we're going to see more of that. The first debates at the end of this month, and then July and August. People will become emotionally invested in the candidates. And you're going to lash out the same way you lash out against Trump supporters, against fellow progressives. That's not productive. We have to have honest, good faith, civil conversations. And on this show, it's a platform for all Democrats. You could be a moderate Democrat. I don't think there's any conservative Democrats left. Moderate to normal liberal to way out to the way left. Same thing Cenk Uygur was on yesterday. I got emails. How could you have Cenk on? And others go, it was great to have Cenk on because some view him as really just a Bernie guy. And he is a Bernie guy. But he said countless times last night on this show, if you listen to it on demand, if you didn't listen live, he will support whoever the nominee is. And that's what I wanted from him. And he said 100%, no doubt about it. And he made the point that if you don't support our nominee, you're voting for Donald Trump to be reelected. So he's blunt way in advance now. We're not waiting until next year when there's a convention. We're saying that. We're all saying that now, even the most progressive out there, like Cenk Uygur. So that's the key. Whoever's our nominee, we're going to support. Between now and then, let's have good faith civil conversations about the candidates. And you pick who you want. You vote for who you want. But let's not silence ourselves on criticizing these candidates if we don't like them. And if someone says something factually wrong, I will correct them. But if it's your opinion, that's your opinion. We'll discuss it. But you're my guest right at the top of the hour. I'd love to hear from you. 866-997-4748. 866-997-4748 right here on the Dean Obeidallah Show.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
My slogan for Trump in 2020, Trump for prison 2020.
Sirius XM Progress.